Solomon Gastillo from James Madison High School with 20 Minutes with a Pro. Today we're interviewing a elementary school counselor, Miss Melissa Perez. So how are you doing today, Miss Perez?
I'm doing great. It's Friday and Fridays are always fun. So yes, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Yep, I love that it's Friday. It's my favorite day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, any hobbies or favorite restaurants, any pets, stuff like that.
Okay, well, I am married. I've been married for over 31 years. I have 2 children, 2 grandchildren. I have a cute little dog named Scruffy. And one of my favorite hobbies is traveling. I try to travel over the weekend. I try to go to places that I've never been before. So that's something that we just started doing not too long ago. So that's been really awesome.
Nice. Where did you travel to last?
The last time we traveled to, we actually did some places in Nashville, Tennessee. Over there, we hadn't. It's not been that far, but we want to venture out a little bit more. So.
It sounds like fun.
Thank you.
Anyway, so explain to us what it is exactly that you do in your job.
Well, the cool thing about being a school counselor at an elementary school, I know a lot of middle school and high school counselors probably feel this way as well, is that when you are a school counselor, your day can look different every single day of the week. So, and then it's interesting, your Monday last week is not going to look anything like your Monday this week. Typically, we do individual counseling. I do group counseling. Sometimes I do lunch bunches. Sometimes that's easier for teachers. You have to work around a lot of people's schedules. And typically we have to be helpers of whoever walks in the door, whether it's a mom or dad, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a student. Our administrators are our bosses, and we just try our very best to help in any situation we can. There are all different types of hats that we wear. One hat is obviously the counseling role. We counsel our students. We counsel our teachers. We counsel our administrators. And we also go into the classroom and talk about different things, character traits. We focus on our 7 habits and here at our school, and that's something that we teach in whole group guidance lessons. We also have other hats. All of us have different special programs that we're in charge of. I'm in charge of the Section 504 program at our school. So any student who receives Section 504 services, I'm also in charge of making sure their plans are being carried out. And I talk to lots of different people at our school and outside our district to make sure those plans are getting taken care of. So those are just some of the things that we do here as a school counselor, elementary school counselor.
Nice. What are some of the challenges that you go through as a counselor?
Some of the challenges, when someone is in a lot of distress, to get them the help that they need. Sometimes when any person, much less an elementary child, feels like they don't have someone to turn to, that's where we as a school counselor comes in. But if they ever feel like nothing's going to get better, it's important for us to make sure that they see that there is a better way to help themselves. So I think that always weighs heavy on my heart, because I want to make sure that every kid feels heard, every kid feels understood, every kid feels that there's someone to listen to them. And sometimes when you're talking to other grown-ups, their past experiences have built their lives, and sometimes it's not always on the same level as a kiddo, especially an elementary kiddo. And our kids are very different than when I grew up. I grew up many, many moons ago, and when I grew up, the problems that we had back then were big problems, but we weren't as worldly. We didn't know as much as our elementary kids these days. They know so much. It can be a wonderful thing, but it also can be something that weighs heavy in their minds and on their hearts. Yeah. And so I think, to me, that's the biggest struggle, is helping them out, making sure I identify who those kids are so that I can get them the help they need, whether it's me or someone else. So.
All right. Does that happen often, where there's a kid in distress or something like that?
It happens more often than people realize. Yes. Sometimes it's something where we need to refer it out to another agency. Sometimes I have to call parents, and that's the last thing I want to do is call a parent when a kiddo is in distress, because I want to be able to help them and not feel that I'm reporting them or getting them in trouble. It's not about getting them in trouble. It's about getting them the help they need. So, you know, the cool thing about our district and NEISD counselors is that we do everything we can to help kids. We give them our emails. We have given them our personal cell phones. We have given, you know, they can text us, they can Zoom us now. And that's another form of a communication that we can foster with them. Of course, we always need parent, because they're so young, we always need parent approval. But if a kiddo ever is in trouble and they need help, our first job is to help our students in any way that we can. So it happens more often than I would like for it to happen.
All right. Yeah. And also about the Zoom call, how's that been going for your school? How's this distance learning happening?
Well, we're just finishing up our first week of Zoom here in our 2020-21 school year. And it's been very frustrating. It's frustrating for our teachers because they want to hug their kids. It's frustrating for the kids because they want to be in teachers' classroom. Even kids that say they don't like school, they'd much rather be here with a human being than talking through Zoom. Is everybody doing their part? Absolutely. Is everybody giving 110%? Absolutely. I think that it's frustrating for parents because they know that they would get a better education with a human being. I know that many people learn best when they can see that person, when they can hear that person, when they can see what's going on live in person. I do think that everybody's doing their part to make sure that we're doing the best with Zoom. I think it's wonderful that we can talk and you can be at your school or your home, and I can be at work. And it's really cool that we still can connect this way. There's no travel time. There's always positive things about things. I try to look at it that way. Well, at least the kiddo can learn in their pajamas, and they can be comfortable. That's pretty cool. I know that as a counselor, I'm Zooming with kiddos individually. I'm not doing small groups yet. And then we're also next week going to start walking into teachers' classrooms so that they can also see us there. My cohort and I, Mrs. Cibolo Gaitán, our other counselor, we are doing our announcements through video. And so the kids are able to see us. We're kind of promoting ourselves. Here's our email. Email us. We'll set up a Zoom. The kids love it. If they can see you and talk to you. It's interesting when we're on classroom Zooms with the teacher and a whole classroom, the kiddos, they know how to use the chat bar. So they're chatting, Miss Perez, I haven't seen you forever. Where are you? And so those are the things that it's like, oh my gosh, it's so good. They've grown so much. Even though we can't see how tall they are, we can definitely see their features coming out differently, them maturing physically, and that's always sweet to see. So I think everybody's doing the best job that they can, and I feel like at least I get to see their faces in some fashion. So
yeah. And how long have you been a counselor?
I've been a counselor. I'm actually going on my 21st school year of being a counselor. I've been in education for about 25, 26 years. But most of my job has been a school counselor. And so I've been doing it a very long time, which means that I've kind of changed through the years and made sure that I do a lot of reflection as a counselor. It's important for me to look back on yesterday and say, what did I do good? What could I improve on tomorrow? And I think that that's something that has helped me evolve over the past 21 years of being a school counselor.
All right. And what motivates you to do this job?
What motivates me is truly helping a person, a human being, and them saying thank you, or I know we can't do it now, but that hug or that email that says, thank you, Ms. Perez, I don't know what I would have done without you, or a parent saying they miss you so much, can they come back and talk to you or visit with you, or do you have a moment? Those are the things. It's not material things. And I think as we get older, we realize it's not the stuff that we can hold in our hands, it's the stuff that we can hold in our hearts and in our brains. And I think that that's When somebody says thank you and they send a little note, or they send it to my principal, or they say something really nice, or like this, I feel like this is someone called me and said, hey, can you be on? I said, wow, somebody thinks enough of me to want to interview me. That's pretty awesome. And even that's just a compliment in itself. And so I think that those are the things that make me tick and keep helping me hopefully re-evolve myself as a school counselor.
All right. Are you the first in your family to kind of go down this path as a counselor or educator?
Yes, I am. I have two parents. My dad did some. He was in the military, and he also did a really cool sales job. My mom had 5 kids, so she was taking care of the kids all the time. We were spread out amongst years. So I'm one of 5 kids. So I have a sister that's in insurance. I have another sister that's in banking. I have a brother that works at a corporate office. I'm really the only one in education, and I'm kind of the only one like in that mental health group where I'm a school counselor. So yes, I am. So it's really nice to see different people in my family be successful, but also know that we're all different, and it's important to to respect each other. And I get shout outs all the time from my brothers and sisters. So.
All right. Well, when did you, what made you realize that this was the type of work you wanted to do, and when did you realize that?
Okay, so I knew I wanted to go into education, and I love kids. I love people. I love talking to people, obviously, because I can talk your head off, and I'm so sorry, but I love talking. I think I knew I wanted to go into teaching, so I taught high school and middle school kids, mostly high school for the first 5 years. And I did the cheerleaders and the pep squad and the drill team. And so I was putting in a lot of time after school. I really didn't have a summer because I was going to camps all the time. And it really filled a lot of what I loved. And throughout that process, a lot of girls and boys, because I even had guy cheerleaders, they would come up and talk to me about what was going on in their lives. And then I understood that human being was more important than what we were doing. What I was doing, I loved, and I loved doing what I was doing, but to hear the little stories or the big stories of high school kids and what they were going through, I realized I was already being a counselor with kids, and I loved it. I loved helping kids and their parents, kind of work through situations so that way they could improve their situation. And I realized I'm already being a counselor. So about 3 years into teaching, I loved it. I loved helping others. So I decided to get my master's in guidance and counseling. And I said, hey, I kind of want to do this. My goal was to get back into high school because I loved high school kids. But I started off at elementary, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the kids, and I fell in love with the different day-to-day things. Some days I was out in the classrooms helping others. Another day I was helping a kiddo in distress. And then other times I'm in my office counseling with students and helping them hopefully improve their situation. And that's how it came. It evolved very naturally. I didn't ever set out to say, I'm going to be a school counselor. It just kind of happened as I started teaching, and I fell in love with it. And I decided, hey, let me do something about it. And then I haven't left this career. So it's been very fulfilling and rewarding for me.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, anyway, you said you taught middle school and high school before that, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's a pretty drastic difference. Did your kind of teaching style have to change?
Absolutely. I was very loving to my kids in high school, but I knew because they were high school, they could take a little bit more help when I was trying to correct them. And I felt like I could say, 3 or 4 positives to them and then tell them what I wanted them to improve on. And kids could take that constructive criticism and then build on it depending on how I said it. And so it worked really well. As I transferred and moved into the elementary realm, I realized, oh my goodness, I have to really explain myself. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a super fast talker. And in high school, the kids loved it. They would laugh at me because I would just talk. Well, as they're younger, they want more explanation. They want you to slow down. They want your eye contact. They want your Your tone of voice has to be you have to be very careful when you're talking with young ones, because everything you say and do, they read into, because they don't have as many experiences and education as a high school kiddo. So I found myself having to talk and speak very differently with students, but I feel like it's made me a better human being, because if you can talk to little kids, you can talk to high school kids. Sometimes I get, invited to speak at a career fair for high school. And I remember I have to go in there and talk to big people. Or if I have a faculty meeting and I have to talk to grown-ups, I can't talk to them the same way I talk to a kindergartner or a third grader. I got to change it up, or they're going to say, why are they talking to me like I'm not so smart? But I do think that I had to jump, and I realized that makes me a better human being, that I can talk to faculty. I can talk to grown women and men, and then I can also turn around and talk to high school. With high school, you have to be a little more chill. You can't be all excited. And then with elementary, I can be super excited and super dramatic. And with high school kids like that too, but they also kind of want you to chill a little bit, and I'm okay with that too. So yeah, I've had to evolve into a very different human being when it comes to talking to others.
All right. Well, if a student wanted to get into your line of work, what core elements would you recommend they use, math, science, English, etc.?
Oh, that's a good question. I know that there's a lot of electives that are in the psychology route. I think that always helps to study how the brain works. You definitely have to be really good in English, because not only do you have to speak to people, but you have to formulate emails and forms, recommendation letters for college. Sometimes I still get hit up by some high school kids or some elementary kids that move on up, and they said, you really worked with me here, you really worked with me there. It's very important with English to do that. It's interesting too that as an elementary school counselor, you wouldn't think that math was important, but it's super duper important, because we're also state testing coordinators, and that has a lot to do with numbers and making sure that certain kids get the different tests that they need, making sure that if someone's reading a test to a kid, that the administrator gets one and so gets one, and then making sure that you're doing it over several grade levels. So math comes into play. I do think that the core subjects that are needed are English and psychology. Math I do, but not as much. I also want to say one additional thing. One thing that really helped me, when I went to college, I was sent out to go to different types of therapeutic places. One of them was the Children's Bereavement Center. And here I am doing a little plug for them. That's just an example of one of them. I would go out and I would see and hear the way people spoke with people in crises. And I loved it. I wish that everybody that went into a school counseling position, or any type of therapist or counselor, because a lot of elementary school counselors also have other therapeutic ways that they can help people. I wish they could learn how to use some words, because I think if I would have learned that way back then, I probably would have been a little more successful a little quicker. But yeah, English is totally the one core subject that I think would help.
All right. And what are two things you enjoy most about your job?
I love human beings, so I love talking to them. That's really cool. I like kids because when they mess up, you get that opportunity to help shape how they think the next time. Because as a human being, we never stop learning, and I love helping kids learn. Even if it's the way we talk to people, learning, okay, so you did that, what would be a better way? And you don't want to give people the answers. You want to give them questions so they can find their answers. And I do think that that's very helpful. I think really talking to people, figuring out together what you can do together to help another human being, to me is the most important thing, and the most thing that I love the most about helping.
All right, well, do I sound funny?
No, and I really love that whole thing that you're talking into. That's way cool.
Oh yeah, the mic. I thought it sounded funny on my end for a second, but I guess not. Well, anyway.
You sound great.
All right, awesome. Well, in regards to the workplace, what characteristics do you look for in coworkers?
I like people that can communicate. As we grow older, we have to realize that, it's easy to type. It's easy to text something when we're upset, when we don't like the way something's going, or the opposite, when something's gone really well and you type it and it comes across, it may not come across the way you would like it to come across. So I think when I work with others, I want to be able to communicate. If you don't like what I've done, let's talk about it. I've always been someone to say 85% of what we do and say is on the outside, your facial expression, your tone of voice, how you look at people. And if people were to do that when we communicate it, it's easy to text. It's easy to type out when you're upset. But I love the team that I'm at Cibolo Green Elementary. I love working with human beings in my office, in our school, because when there's a problem, you got to work through it. You got to talk. And I think communication is key in any workplace. So the people that I work with, my team members here, we try really hard to communicate. And sometimes you have to send an email because that's just the way life works. But if there's a problem, you gotta communicate with others so that you can work out that problem. There's gonna be problems. That's human nature. We're not always gonna see things the way someone else sees it. But communication is key to working with other human beings.
All right. And how many counselors are at your school?
We have 2 full-time counselors. Typically, we run between 900 and 1,000 kiddos at our school. So our elementary school is bigger than some middle schools in our district. So it's a really big school. But this past year, because of COVID and all that good stuff, our numbers are a little bit lower. Right now we're sitting at, a little over 800. And so that's kind of worrisome because our district populates counselors at a school based on enrollment and need, of course. So, that's what.
Well, you 2 counselors, do you guys specialize like in your own region of the school, or is it like you guys work as one?
At our school, everybody's different. It just depends on what your principal wants, what your counseling team wants. But at our school, we are very much a good working team. We worked together for many years and we know how each other ticks. We don't divide the school up by letter grades or by grade levels or last name or anything like that. If a kiddo comes to us, we see that kid. If a parent comes to us, we see that parent. And then we're constantly, like I said earlier, we're constantly communicating so that way, if that kiddo comes in, that a different counselor can see them. And I think sometimes that may happen if you only have certain kids. If the counselor's not there, they're helping a different kiddo, someone else can't help them. So we do divide up different types of hats on our school. My cohort, she's in charge of the state testing program. I'm in charge of Section 504. She's in charge of RTI. I've been in charge of McKinney. Just different programs at our school. And so we do have to separate that way and do our own thing, but we often rotate. Like if I'm teaching kinder classes this month, we'll be teaching first grade classes this month, then the next month we switch. And then that way, every kiddo gets to see either or both of us, so that when they do have a problem, a concern, or when they're in crisis, they can come to either one of us and feel comfortable. That's just our philosophy at Cibolo Green, and our principal has allowed us to do it. We had a principal before him, and she allowed us to do that. As long as nothing falls to the wayside and we catch everything, we support each other. That's been what we do here at our school.
All right. What's the most surprising thing that you think about your job? Something most people probably don't realize that's what a school counselor does.
One thing that I realized that we do a little more than I would guess that people realized. When I talk to friends, I remember this one friend said, "What do you do all day? They're just in elementary. They can't have problems." And I was like, oh gosh, if he only knew, if he only walked in our shoes, he would know a little bit more. But one thing that I've noticed that I've had to become really good at is also counseling adults. So adults on our campus, staff members, our administration, we've been able to counsel them as well. And I think that that has made me a better counselor, because I can counsel elementary students' parents, and then our staff members, our teacher, our faculty, our administration. So I think that that's something that other people on the outside world probably wouldn't understand, that we're important to our community as well. The adults because if you help adults, then they will be better human beings for their children. And so it all has a trickle down effect. And we all work together. So I think that would be something that people wouldn't realize that we do counsel adults.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
But anyway, can you give me an example of one time you went above and beyond during your job?
Oh gosh. Okay. This just happened a couple of years ago, but we had a little boy. He's actually still at our school. He's precious. Oh my goodness. He had a really terrible disease, and he was going through a very, very hard time. And obviously this was a couple of years ago, but he was at the Children's Hospital in Houston. And I have family in Houston, and I went to the Houston Hospital, even though I live here in San Antonio, and I went to go visit him, and I was able to visit him and take him a Texans little hat, and we had a good time there. And it was really sweet. To this day, the mom and the little boy and even the dad send me sweet little messages and gifts, and I feel like, not that I went above and beyond, just because I think all of our school counselors deserve that little thank you, that little memento of just saying thank you. I just think that not just me, but all counselors in our district do a good job of reaching out to our kids. But you walk away not feeling like, oh, I did something great. You walk away feeling like, I feel good about myself because I just helped somebody else. So I do feel like that those connections are just something that kind of help you along the way.
That's awesome. Well, obviously you love your job, but if there was one thing you could do, anything, what would it be?
Okay, Solomon, something broke. It froze a little bit, so I didn't hear the question. Okay, got you.
I got it. All right. Well, obviously you love your job, but if there's anything else you could be, anything, what would it be?
If I could be anything, I don't know. I love my job. Like you said, I love my job. I want to be with people. So it'd be some type of counselor or therapist, but maybe in the private realm, because sometimes in the education realm, you have to do a lot of paperwork, and that's just part of the job you have to take home. I would really love it if I could just help human beings all day long. And even though I do, it's in a different setting with a lot of paperwork. So I think that it would probably be in the same field, but it might be a little more. So maybe like a therapist, private therapist. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's all the questions I have for today. It was very good talking with you. Thank you so much for the interview. And yeah, this is Solomon Castillo from 20 Minutes with a Pro. Thank you.